Hi, I'm Tim. In this video, I answer a question that Amy asked. How do we know where words come from? It's a great question. Most of language is spoken, and after you say something, those words don't hang around for scientists to investigate later. They're gone. So how do we trace the history of our words, years and even centuries into the past? Thanks, Amy, for asking this question. I'm going to talk about 4 ways that we can find out about the history of a word. The first way we can find out where words come from is to ask an expert. For example, you can go to an online etymology dictionary to find out where a word comes from. The word etymology means the study of where words come from. If you want to try this out, my favorite site for etymologies is Etymonline. Try it yourself. Go to the website, it's linked in the description for this video, and search for a word that you're interested in. Then share what you've learned with someone else, a family member or a friend. This is fun and interesting, but it raises another question. How do those experts know where the words come from? The rest of the methods I'll show you in this video are ways that experts themselves use to find out where words come from. So, the next one is writing from the past. We are very lucky in English. Our language has been written for over 1,000 years. Have you ever read something that was written a long time ago? The Little House on the Prairie books were written over 80 years ago. The first Peter Pan story was written 100 years ago. Alice in Wonderland was written about 150 years ago. Now, you may have heard of William Shakespeare. He wrote his plays 400 years ago. Shakespeare's English, like the English I'm speaking now, is called modern English by linguists. How does this bit of Shakespeare sound to you?
4 days will quickly steep themselves in night. 4 nights will quickly dream away the time. And then the moon, like to a silver bow, new bent in heaven, shall behold the night of our solemnities.
To many people, Shakespeare's language sounds like English, but with some odd words and strange ways of putting them together. You probably haven't heard of Beowulf. That's the name of an ancient poem, a very long poem, that is one of the oldest bits of written English that we still have. The name of the author is lost, and we're not sure exactly when it was written, but our oldest copies of it are about 1,000 years old. So it was probably written even earlier than that. This was in what linguists call Old English. How does it sound to you?
What we gar dinner in year dogum? They ad cuninga thrim ye fruonan, hultha ethlingus ellen frimadan.
To many English speakers today, this sounds like a completely different language. But because we have writings from that whole 1,000-year time, we can watch the development of words and see that the language of Beowulf is English and that it gradually changed. Let's look at a couple of examples. The word woman started out as a combination of weith, meaning woman, and mon, meaning person. We see it change over the centuries. Until the 1500s, when it starts to be written the way that we write it today. With the word know, we see the Old English endings disappear by about 1300. There we go. And like with woman, the word know arrived at its current form in the 1500s. Linguists use observations like these to divide English into Old English, which was spoken from the 400s or so up until the late 1100s, Middle English, which was spoken from the 1100s up until the 1500s, and Modern English, which has been spoken ever since. There are lots of other changes besides spelling and pronunciation, even within each of these periods. For example, in how sentences are put together, in the endings that go on words, and in the meanings of the words themselves. But you can already see how looking at old writing can give us a lot of information about where our words come from and how they change over time. You don't have to listen to Beowulf to hear language changing. Find an old book, Peter Pan or Little House on the Prairie, or something else that your parents read when they were your age. Enjoy the story, but also listen for how the English used in that book is different from the English you know today. What do you notice? The next way we can learn about the past of words is to notice odd facts about the words in our language as it exists today. For example, the spelling of the word not has a silent K at the beginning. So does knee. So does know, as in to know something. There are many more KN words like this in English. Some are more common, some are pretty obscure. But we know a couple of things about language, especially from looking at older forms of writing. First, we know that in English, letters are usually pronounced. Second, we know that pronunciations change faster than spellings. Putting these facts together, it makes sense to conclude that the K in these words, in these spellings, used to be pronounced. Another example of this is in the word for a female fox. Do you know what that is? It's the word vixen. Now, linguists know that the F sound and the V sound are very similar. Try making them one after another in your mouth. You'll notice that almost nothing changes in how you're holding your mouth to make the sounds. What we've found out is that in the past, some parts of England pronounced this sound as an F, and other parts pronounced it as a V. For some reason, the version of English that we ended up with took the F version for fox and the V version for vixen. These are only two examples of the many ways that English spelling and pronunciation hints at the history of the language. What's another way that the spelling of a word doesn't quite match how you pronounce it? What do you think that might say about the way that word was pronounced in the past? The last way I want to tell you about for learning where words come from is comparing different languages. For example, if you look at how people refer to this number in different languages, in English it's called 2, in Dutch it's called twee, in German it's zwei, and in Turkish it's iki. Which languages in this group do you think are related, and which one is different? We can do this same thing for a whole lot of words, and very often the English word will turn out to be like the word in German, in Dutch, or Danish, or certain other languages. This group is known as the Germanic language family. Other language families found in Europe include Celtic, Romance, and Slavic. With a bit more digging, we find that these families have some similarities to each other as well. Based on these similarities, linguists can work out what the word in the earlier language might have sounded like. This larger language family is called Indo-European. But all of the Indo-European words for two are still different from Turkish. Turkish belongs to a different family, which we call Turkic. Now, think of a word you know in another language. If you don't know another language, ask someone nearby for an example. Does that word sound like the English word that has the same meaning? What does that tell you about the relationship between English and that language? In this video, we've looked at 4 ways that we can learn about where words come from. We can ask an expert. We can look at how the word has been written in the past. We can compare words within a language. And we can compare words across different languages. And of course, you can always combine these methods to learn even more. This is just the beginning, but I hope it has been an interesting look at some of the ways that we can find out where words come from. Thanks again to Amy for the question. Thanks also to all of the people whose images and voices went into this video. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.